Hey guys, thanks for joining us for this week's PB&J podcast, where myself and my sister Michelle will join you guys each week to talk about true crime cases and paranormal cases and pretty much anything else we feel like talking about. So buckle up and stay tuned each week for a new podcast. We hope you will enjoy it, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe where you can. And if you feel like donating to us, you can do so at buymeacoffee.com/PBANDJ. Thanks for listening.
What is up, everybody?
Hey friends, we're back.
After I don't even remember how long hiatus now, we are back with you guys.
We decided to get our crap together and get back online.
And feeling all right.
Yeah, we got some good stuff coming up for you too. We got a lot of ideas floating around and some pretty good true crime and some true crime / paranormal stuff coming up. So plus a little bit in the next couple of weeks, we'll be talking a little bit about our lives. We talked about it before. My nephew, who is fixing to graduate and go off to college, we're going to be talking about my sister, how she just broke a band. She just broke a rubber band as I was talking about it. So she's a little stressed about it.
A little bit stressed.
But it's okay. We'll get through it, and we'll talk about that in the upcoming weeks. But before we get started, I want to tell everybody that thanks for sticking with us while we've been off. We've had a couple of health issues and some just busy things going on in our lives. But
if you don't know, let's just kind of go backwards and say, I'm Jenny, I'm an amputee, and with being an amputee comes a lot of depression and things like that. So to be quite honest with you guys, I just haven't really felt like doing a whole lot lately. So I'm starting to come out of that little funk, and with the help of my sister Michelle, who is peanut butter, I'm jelly. So
in case you was wondering. So
in case you've forgotten.
Yeah. So we've been kind of taking things a little slower. I've had a lot of issues stemming from some health issues that I have. Hopefully going to be getting better, but I do have kind of a rough road ahead, just as Jenny does, and we're dealing with it the best we can, and hopefully you guys will stick with us and we'll get going on what we've got today. Today we're going to talk about a couple of things. I kind of got into a rabbit hole when I was doing this, and I was going to talk about Elisa Lam. And Elisa Lam is a young lady. She was a student from Canada that came to Los Angeles to stay at the, I guess you'd consider it infamous or famous, infamous more, Cecil Hotel, which is in...
She came to America.
She came to America, and she ended up staying at the Cecil Hotel.
She kind of was on like a
vacay,
like a backpack tour.
A break from school. Yeah,
she was taking a break, and she was doing some traveling and sightseeing. Like you hear about a lot of kids do that, like in Australia or Europe, or
taking a break and kind of taking a break from school and family, and kind of just doing their own thing, getting in the field.
And she was also a blogger.
Yes,
too. So she did.
So
she did that as well.
She took, I believe she did photography and things like that. So she was in Los Angeles, and she happened to stay at the Cecil Hotel, which is in downtown Los Angeles. It's a budget hotel that is located around on Main Street. It opened in December 20th, 1924. The hotel was renamed the Stay on Main in an effort to distance the establishment from its dark past, and we'll get into that here in a few minutes. It has 19 floors and 700 guest rooms. Like I'd said before, the hotel has kind of a checkered history with many suicides and deaths occurring there, and also some serial killers stayed there. They roomed there. In 2017, it was being renovated and redeveloped into a mix of hotel rooms and residential units. And the hotel will open again for business in October 2021. So here in about 6 months.
Yeah.
So, and
that's if nothing's been pushed back.
If nothing's been pushed back by the pandemic. It's actually a beautifully historic hotel with a lot of people who stayed there in the past were up and coming artists, musicians, things like that. Like I said, the hotel was opened in 1924. It closed in 2007, but it will be reopening. They show that the floor count is 15, but it says 19. So I think they include the lobby and the basement
Probably
as floors. So, and probably the roof and the attic space.
Most likely,
has 700 rooms, 301 suites. It was a private builder that built it. And so from there, we'll start about its reputation, that making it
and
infamous.
Isn't it kind of like, isn't it basically like, I don't want to, the only thing I can think of is called Skid Row. Like,
it is on
like
Skid Row.
Kind of,
it is where,
that's
yeah.
the name of it.
That's what, I don't know if that's what they call it now, but back in the day it was called Skid Row.
But
that's
what you would consider Skid
Yes.
Row, where there's a lot of homeless
It-
activity.
yeah,
and things like that.
it had a very bad reputation for in the 60s and 70s, as you know, a lot of drug addicts lived there, a lot of hookers lived there, prostitutes lived there. I don't know if I can say hookers, but I did. But a lot of ladies of the night lived there and did their business there. So it was, you know, one of those things. And I have heard, me and Jenny were talking about this earlier because she had brought it up. She said that she believes that the season of American Horror Story where they did the hotel
season of American Horror Story
was loosely
based, I believe,
on the Cecil. So, and I remember him saying that once.
And it's basically loosely based on, and this is the one with Lady Gaga in it, or one of the first ones with Lady Gaga.
This is the first one I think she was in. Yeah, this is the first one she was in.
This might have been the second one she was in.
It may have been.
I'm not positive, but anyway,
was Roanoke first?
Is predominant? No, Roanoke's after.
Okay, then this was the first one she was in.
Lady Gaga is very predominant
she's one of the main characters.
In this season of American Horror Story.
Yep.
But it's based loosely on the H.H. Holmes hotel that he built, and also the Cecil hotel.
A mixture, yeah.
So kind of a mixture of both.
Yeah.
So it's a very good season of American Horror Story, in my opinion.
Now, probably one of the best, actually. I liked it and the Coven. So those were my two favorites. If you chime in on our Facebook page and stuff, if you have a favorite one, because a lot of the things that we talk about, he's done. Ryan is pretty much one of those people like us who watch serial killer documentaries to calm down. So, we're just those kind of people. Okay, the first documented suicide at the Cecil Hotel occurred in January of 1927, when Percy Ormond Cook, 52, shot himself in the head while inside his hotel room for failing to reconcile with his wife and child. The Times reported that he was rushed to the receiving hospital with a slim chance of survival. Death records revealed that he died the same evening.
So this was basically like the very first incident.
They weren't even open
less than 3
years after they opened. So from the get-go, it was one of those hotels.
Yeah.
The next reported death was in 1931 when guest W.K. Norton died in his room after taking poison capsules. Throughout the 1940s and 1950s, more suicides occurred. In 2008, the longtime residents referred to the Cecil as the Suicide Hotel, a nickname that became very popular in the social media years later. They did not really care for that. They were very upset about that and tried to revamp the hotel to get away from the more, let's just put it this way. I know where we live. If you are staying at a hotel where people live, the clientele of the hotel can be a little shady sometimes. Now, they do have hotels where people live, and that's what they're made for. They're made for an extended stay, which is fine. But these are the Cecil was not technically an extended stay hotel. It was built as a hotel for people to come to Los Angeles and stay in. That was very grand. It has beautiful foyer where when you walk in, and it's got big ceilings and beautiful marble and things like that. So it wasn't built for a Skid Row type hotel or a no-tell hotel. kind of places.
And I
so
don't know, do you know if when it was built, if that's the area that it was, or did it become that area?
It became that area. It became that area after.
So
more towards the 60s and 70s did it become what's called Skid Row. So, in addition to the suicides, the Cecil's history include other violence and disturbing happenings. It also became a notorious rendezvous spot for adulterous couples. Drug activity were common ground for the ladies of the night to going on. In 2015, now this one I thought was really interesting. In 2015, while researching the Cecil Hotel, an article came out, and the researcher Hadley Maris claimed that in 1947, Elizabeth Short, who was dubbed the Black Dahlia by the media. Now, this was the young lady that they found in the 40s, cut in half.
They originally thought it was a mannequin.
Yes,
at first,
a woman and her child saw her laying in a field and originally thought it was a mannequin. But then, when the police were called, when she got closer, she realized that it was actually a woman.
And it's a very popular unsolved mystery.
Yes,
actually.
yes, and
it has not been solved. So.
We'll talk about that later on this year too. So that's pretty cool. But she was rumored to have been seen drinking in the Cecil's bar day before her notorious unsolved murder. However, the claim appears nothing more than retelling a long-forgotten falsehood that appeared in the 1995 column written by Los Angeles Times scribe Steve Harvey. Now, there's still some controversy regarding that because the people are very adamant that she was seen at the Cecil Hotel.
Yes.
And that would have been one of the places that she frequented.
In the bar at the Cecil Hotel. So
a lot of people claim that she was there. A lot of people claim that she wasn't there. So the Black Dahlia, what the story is on January 11th, 1947, just 3 days before she was murdered, the Black Dahlia was seen in the bar of the Cecil Hotel with a girlfriend and two sailors. They're saying that, in fact, she was not at the hotel. The fact that the hotel and the bars were on the same block, including the dugout next door, they say that she was at a different hotel, not that hotel. But that would have been the Biltmore Hotel, who also has a notorious past. And the Biltmore Hotel is really notorious for its gangster activity, not gang activity, mafia activity. Let's see.
It says basically that she liked to hang out in that area,
yes.
And the dugout, which was a bar down the street from, or in the same block as the Cecil Hotel, was one of her favorite hangouts during the week before she was murdered. So,
okay.
Yeah, so it's highly contested whether or not she was at the Cecil, but let's say for argument's sake that she was.
She was, and probably
in that area, so.
Probably had been at one time. That was an area where, when the men came back from being out to sea, they would frequent that area because there were bars, there were hotels, it was easy to get whatever you wanted while you were on shore leave.
Exactly.
So let's just put it that way. And a lot of women back then, the way that they, especially girls that came to Los Angeles looking for stardom, the way that they would make sure that they had a dinner for the night was they would date various men. That's just a known fact. I'm not downgrading or degrading anybody. That's the way they survived.
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of what I've read about Elizabeth Short, and this is all it's
right.
None of it's, we don't know this as fact, but a lot of what I've read about her was that she was a young starlet trying to make it in Hollywood.
Yes.
And she was frequently seen with multiple gentleman callers.
Yes.
Let's just call them that. Not that I'm not saying she was a woman of the night or anything of the sort.
No.
I'm saying that she dated a lot of men and was taken to dinner and things like that. And that was how she survived a lot. Yeah. So that's what I've read. I don't know if that's true, but so don't come for me. So
yeah. But they, even though they say there was no known record of her ever being there, if you're just going in to go to the bar, which you could do that back then, there wouldn't be a record of you there. There were people that said after she was murdered that they had seen her at the Cecil Hotel's bar. back then, you could go to a hotel, bar, or restaurant without being a patron.
Right.
And you probably can now.
Yeah,
I think you can now.
Yeah.
But you can, well, I guess so, because you can go to Hard Rock and not go to the hotel.
Right.
But eat at the restaurant and things like that. In 1964, a retired telemarketer named Pigeon Goldie Osgood, who was well-known and well-liked long-term resident at the hotel, she was often known for feeding the pigeons, that's how she got her nickname, was found in her room. She had been sexually assaulted, stabbed, beaten, and her room ransacked. Jacques B. Ellinger was charged with Osgood's murder because he had been seen covered in blood roaming the streets close to the hotel, but was later cleared as a suspect, and her murder still to this day remains unsolved. They have no absolute leads in this murder whatsoever.
Right.
They have no idea who did this to her. They have no idea how this happened. But it was pretty brutal. They said that this is going to be a little bit graphic. They said that almost the entire room was covered in her blood. Another infamous person, or famous, I guess you would say, that in the 1980s, the hotel may have been the residence of serial killer Richard Ramirez. And they say may have been. It has been proven that he did stay at the Cecil Hotel. He had a room there that he had stayed. He was nicknamed the Night Stalker. Ramirez was a regular presence on the Skid Row area of Los Angeles. So yes, it was on Skid Row.
Right.
According to a hotel clerk who claims to have spoken to him, Ramirez was rumored to have stayed at the Cecil for a few weeks. They also believe that while he was staying there, he engaged in part of his killing spree while staying at the hotel, because they had residents claiming that they'd seen him changing his clothes before going up to his room and throwing his clothes away.
Right.
If you don't know who Richard Ramirez is, he was convicted of 13 murders in 1989. He's called the Night Stalker. What he would do is he would come into people's houses, sometimes through an open window or door, and rape and murder, or sexually assault and murder the people that were there.
Now, was he also the serial killer that was on the dating game? Is that Richard Ramirez?
No, that was I know who you're talking about. No, that the guy that was on, I think it was Akuro or something. The guy that was on the dating game was before Ramirez came along, and he had a liking to younger, like children. So, yeah, he was a sick bastard.
Okay.
The Ramirez was, like I said, they thought to have engaged in it. On August 30th, 1985, a group of Los Angeles residents spotted him in the street and prevented him from escaping until police arrived to arrest him. That's how he got arrested, because there was a composite drawing of him put out, and the people at the hotel and in the area recognized him, so they held him
out on the street.
Yes,
they kept him from escaping.
Yes,
until the police could get there.
He was convicted of the 13 murders and sentenced to death by the gas chamber, though he would ultimately succumb to cancer in 2013, which really bothers me that he was convicted in 1989 and he was still alive in 2013.
Of course.
I don't understand. I mean,
that's a whole nother subject, but
yes,
our judicial system is severely broken.
And we will talk about that later on too, because not today, but later on in the podcast, because that's something that's very interesting to me. But he was awaiting his fate on death row. While this man was in there, and this is just a side note, while this man was in there, they were talking about how he would get letters from groupies, women that were in love with him, knowing what he did, and full well knowing that had he ever gotten out of jail, there's a possibility you would have been the next victim.
Yes.
These women would send him clothing, underwear, pictures of themselves nude. I mean, it was just weird. I don't understand that.
The same
but
is true with not Dahmer, Bundy.
Yes.
Bundy. I mean,
yes. Jeffrey Dahmer got letters from people that it's so weird. That's something we're gonna have to talk about later on in another podcast. Sure. Another serial killer, Austrian Jack Unterweger, I guess is how you would pronounce it, stayed in the Cecil in 1991, possibly because he sought to copy Ramirez's crimes. While there, he strangled and killed at least 3 sex workers, for which he was convicted for in Austria. Okay. This man had been convicted in Austria. Okay.
Yes.
They likened him unto Austria's version of Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
He fled Austria after he had served his time in Austria, fled Austria, came to the United States, and started doing it all over again.
Right.
And they said that he was so like Jack the Ripper that it was almost as if the man had been reincarnated. That is the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Okay. This is probably one of the things. This is the one that most of you may know the Cecil for. In 2013, the Cecil, by then rebranded as the Stay on Main. Although it still they still maintain the original Cecil signs. They're just another. There's another sign above the door that says that.
From what I understand, it's basically like two separate hotels now.
There's a hotel,
right, which is the Cecil Hotel.
And that is a extended stay.
Right.
And the Stay on Main is considered a hostel.
Right.
At a hotel. Elisa Lam, a Canadian student, came to stay there.
Right.
She first stayed in a communal room, which there were more than one person was staying in the room with her.
I think there were like 4 girls
I think so.
in the room.
They complained that she was acting very weird and very erratic. So they moved her out of the room into a single room where she stayed by herself. What everybody knows her by is a viral video a video that went viral of her acting very strangely in a elevator there. Now, there have been two things have been said about this. One, from a paranormal aspect.
Yes.
That she had stayed really close to where Richard Ramirez's room was. Mm-hmm. And that quite possibly that the ghost of Richard Ramirez was haunting her and trying to get her to do things that she didn't want to do. Two, there are videos depicting her pressing the elevator's buttons, repeatedly pressing and walking in and out of the elevator, and possibly attempting to hide from someone. There was no one in the hallways when she was doing this. There is a game that some people think that she was playing. It's a game that is very popular among Asian people. It's called the elevator game, where you go in and you press a certain series of buttons. Mm-hmm. And it takes you up and down, up and down, up and down, and you have to get out. And supposedly you can see the ghost of the hotel or wherever you're staying.
And I've heard too that it takes you to another dimension.
Yes. Now.
And if you haven't watched this video, you really need to. There's no graphic violence or anything like that. It's simply her acting very erratically in and out of an elevator, and it. Really, kind of, to me, it attests to her possible mental state when that's happening. It's possible to me that she was having some sort of
breakdown. Yeah, she had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Mm-hmm. There was a concern that she had stopped taking her medication. Now, there are several different types of bipolar disorder. There's bipolar 1, bipolar 2, and I believe there's another bipolar. Bipolar 2 is more prominent with people. The majority of people that have bipolar 2 disorder. Mm-hmm. It can be controlled with medication. Sometimes it can be controlled with just counseling. Bipolar 1 disorder, I believe, is the disorder where you have extreme highs and extreme lows. And if you're not on your medication, you can possibly be suicidal.
Sure.
You can be homicidal, things like that.
Right.
Elisa, they said, was probably not on her medication, that she had stopped taking it for some reason or another. She disappeared off the face of the earth. The last known whereabouts were the Cecil Hotel in that elevator.
Yeah.
And she disappeared. Weeks.
And the floor that she stayed on did not have security footage. So they couldn't tell what had happened on her floor in particular. But there is footage of her on the elevator, being on and off the elevator and all of that. So you really need to watch
when she's getting on and off the elevator. If you pay attention, you cannot see any shadows. So because you can see about the sides of the hallways, So there's nobody standing right there. There's nobody walking up. The doors close slowly when she gets in. Sometimes the doors don't close at all, but there's nobody walking up. Okay. So you can't see anything.
And we have to remember too that, you know, in looking at this video, this is an older hotel. It is an older hotel. They didn't start doing renovations on it until recently.
In the 2000s, I think.
In the 2000s.
Yeah.
So this would have been probably before any major renovations.
Yeah.
Obviously, they would have had service to their elevators, and they would have routinely serviced them, I would assume.
Yeah.
But if I used to work in a hospital, in the older section of the hospital. Those elevators did not move like a normal elevator.
No,
they were very slow to close, sometimes very slow to open. They did not move fluently like a lot of the elevators do today, where you can barely feel them moving. So when I saw that footage, seeing the doors close, you know, stay open for an extended period of time, reminded me of working in that older section of the hospital.
Right.
That's just how those older elevators work.
And then no paranormal involved, no nothing. That's just how things went. So
crazy going on. Yeah, it was an older elevator, so it did not move the way a normal elevator would move.
If you've been in an elevator, you know sometimes when you're sitting there, you're thinking, okay, door close, you know, so that's where we're at with that.
Right.
Now, I think it was a couple of weeks later, her parents had come down here and they were trying to figure out what had happened.
There was an extensive search.
There was an extensive search for her. And about that time, people in the hotel started complaining that their water pressure was bad.
And they also complained about a
funny odor
and a funny taste too.
And that it was...
And a color.
It was weird coloring. That it was a rust color.
In the hotel.
So the maintenance guy goes up to the roof, which did not... This is the thing. They did not have access to this roof. If you stayed at the hotel, you did not have access to the roof. The doors were locked. Only the maintenance had keys. It was a pain in the butt to get to because you had to like basically climb out a window, climb up a stairway, climb out, you know, there was no...
It wasn't like readily accessible.
Right. And the way she couldn't get through the door because the door was locked. The door was locked when they found it. So she would have had to climb out a window, scurry over, climb up some steps, and get onto the roof. And there is a group called TFIL. If you will watch it, they just went to the Cecil Hotel. It is probably the most excellent footage I've ever seen. Plus, they're hilarious. So you'll enjoy watching it anyway. But they go into detail on how she got on the roof or how she would have gotten on the roof if she had tried to get on there herself. They had to climb out a window. They had to skimmy across a fire escape. They had to shimmy up a pole. I mean, it's really interesting to watch. So you need to watch that.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you why. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's anchor.fm to get started today.
So go into theirs. The Ghost Adventures has also done a thing at the Cecil Hotel. And my all-time favorite, BuzzFeed, they've done one, and they're really, really good because they really do the research. And it's about her. It's about Elisa Lam. It's about what happened during this. Well,
and Stephanie Harlow, who is a YouTuber that does true crime stories, she's done a really good video on the Cecil Hotel. And there's also a fairly new documentary out on Netflix
that is really good
about the Cecil Hotel.
Yes, really good.
And it's not just about Elisa Lam; it's just about the Cecil Hotel.
It's about the hotel.
And if you haven't watched those things, those are some reference material for you.
Those are things that we've watched, we've looked at, and this is why this was so interesting to us. Now, once the maintenance guy went in, and I'm not sure if they drained it or what happened, but when they went up there, There was clothing, female clothing, and shoes folded up neatly sitting on the steps of one of the cisterns.
Mhm.
When he opened the cistern, he unfortunately found the deceased body of Elisa Lam. The lid was closed, guys. They said that
You could not do that from the inside.
You can't do that from the inside. And they said that there was no way that her small frame body could have opened the cistern lid.
Right, especially from inside.
Yeah.
Because the water would have been up towards the top, so getting in would not have been that big of an issue, but
Probably
getting
not.
back out would have been a problem for her, because basically at that point you're floating. So trying to push open a door when you have nothing to brace yourself against,
Exactly,
to get any kind of momentum towards this door would have been impossible.
So they
the more that water gets used, the lower
it gets.
That cistern will get.
The
so
closer,
you get further and further away from the door. And she was not big. She was what?
She was little,
5'4",
maybe 5'3", and she weighed maybe 100, 120,
like
between 100 and 120 pounds. But okay, this is the thing that crosses my mind. First off, how extremely tragic for this young lady and her family.
Absolutely.
For her to lose her life this way, because they don't know what happened to her. If she put herself in there, that's one thing. I personally don't see how it's possible, because I think it's too heavy for her to lift.
Right.
I know that because you're standing on a ladder.
But even if she did lift it, let's just say she did lift it.
Yes.
She could not have closed it.
No.
And we're not talking about a door that would have been easily closed by the wind.
No.
Or anything like that.
No. This is like a hatch, people.
Yeah. So it wouldn't have been something that the wind could have blown shut.
So in my mind, somebody put her in there. There's a possibility she was already dead when she was put in there. But can you imagine the horror of the people that live in that hotel when they found out that the water they were drinking and showering in
had someone's body in it.
Full on moment in the tub with bleach, crying, brushing my teeth.
Joy Luck Club, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And here's my theory about it. I think it's possible that she was with somebody, messing around, doing whatever, all innocent and in nature. This is my theory, so hear me out on this. I think something was going on, they were playing or what have you, and maybe like truth or dare or something like that, and in an effort to try to fit in or make some friends or what have you, she was dared to get into
the cistern
and go for a swim.
Yeah.
She got in there, which explains why her clothes were neatly folded on the outside.
Yeah.
So she took her clothes off, got in there, and then no one was there to help her get back out.
Right.
And they shut the door, and it could have all been innocent from the get-go.
Exactly.
All was innocent. Yeah. And then by the time they got back up there to her, thinking that she could have gotten out by herself, not realizing that she didn't.
Yeah.
She wasn't able to get out by herself. By the time they realized what had happened and they go back to check on her, she's already dead.
Right.
So they just left her in there.
So they freak out.
Exactly. I think somebody knows something. I don't think it's a matter of her she got in there, somehow she was able to shut it, because there wouldn't have been enough room for her to, she would have been down in the water, which was not filled up to the top of the cistern.
No.
So she wouldn't have been able to get in and shut
door behind her.
It would not have been possible.
No.
So I think somebody knows something.
Somebody knows something, and for some reason they're not coming forward. And this is the thing.
I mean, honestly, I just think it's a matter of them afraid of being in trouble, because ultimately they're responsible for her death.
And now they're in trouble because nobody has come forward. And if you had come forward or called the cops right then and said, we were goofing off, my friend got in the cistern, now she can't get out, the door shut, we can't get the door open, things like that.
Right.
Stuff happens. Guys, I know that you're probably thinking, as adults, we're thinking, I mean, think of the stupid crap we did when we were growing up.
Absolutely.
Things that should have killed us that didn't. And thank God, it didn't. And thank God we did it before internet. So
social media.
Yeah, there's no proof that we did those things, but it still doesn't erase the fact that you're in a hotel that has known suicides, death, serial killers were staying there. A lot of bad stuff going on, a lot of bad feelings coming in and out. And there's women of the night staying there, drug dealers staying in there, mob activity, mafia activity, just all kinds of stuff going on. There's within those walls, there has got to be some bad energy going on.
Sure.
And then she comes in, and who knows? I mean, who knows why she stopped taking her medications? Her family did say that she did not renew a prescription. While she was there. And that's when they became concerned.
She was diagnosed with an extreme case of bipolar.
So she had an extreme case. She needed her medication.
She needed to be on her medication.
Yes. And her family became concerned for her when she stopped responding to their phone calls. She stopped responding to their emails.
She stopped blogging.
She stopped blogging. I mean, she was a blogger. So she was somebody that people followed extensively. So, is it a case of she didn't take her meds and decided that she wasn't going to stay in this world any longer and wanted somebody to help her and it went south? Was it a case of somebody that, like Jenny said, they were playing around and it went south? Or was there some kind of paranormal aspect? A lot of people believe that she was haunted by the ghost of the Cecil Hotel and they talked her into basically killing herself. My whole theory behind this is, and I haven't talked about this very, very much with people, but I believe that she did go up there on her own. I think somebody was with her. I think Elisa had decided that she was not going to stay in this world anymore. And for some reason or another, she thought that was a good idea. I do believe a lot in paranormal. So there is a possibility that she was prompted by ghosts to go, but you never know what is on somebody's mind when they're not taking their medications. People that are bipolar, and I know this because I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder, and I have irrational thoughts sometimes, things that are so stupid when you say them out loud, for lack of a better term, that you're thinking, oh my God, what are you talking about? So, and I didn't even have an extreme case like she did. I don't have an extreme case like she did. So, honestly, when it gets down to it, it's an extremely sad story that a young lady lost her life and her family there was nothing they could do, and they still don't have any answers.
They don't have, there's no explanation. No. There's no answer.
And you can't close that wound. You cannot close that wound when you don't have it. You can barely close it when you do have answers.
Right.
But to not know what happened in the last moments of your child's life, and the only thing you have is a video of her acting, for all better terms, irrationally on an elevator. It looks like she's interacting with somebody.
Right.
On several different floors.
And in her mind, she may be
exactly. She might have been interacting with somebody, and we didn't see that person. There are some times where you can see shadows in the elevator with her, but they chalk that up to it's a possibility that it was just the footage, because footage is kind of grainy. You can see her, but you can't see a lot of other stuff. So, that was, probably one of the most interesting things about the Cecil.
Right.
So
what are your thoughts? Do you think it's a highway to another dimension, or foul play for her? I mean, do you think it's the elevator game and she...
I think it was foul play, honestly.
What do you think?
I think this is
I would agree.
I think this is a crime. I think there were other people involved. I don't think there's no way she got up there by herself. There's no way. She would have fallen to her death if she had slipped.
I definitely think, and I somewhat disagree on that, but I think she was able to get in by herself, but I don't think it was her idea to get in there.
No.
And
I don't think she went up there by herself.
I don't think she went up there with the intention
of killing herself.
Not getting out.
Yeah. And I mean, that's
just my opinion.
Do I think the Cecil is haunted? Absolutely. There has to be some kind of energy there. You have too much bad with Richard Ramirez being there and all the suicide.
Right.
And those are just the tip of the iceberg of what we talked about that happened at that hotel. That hotel was nicknamed the Suicide Hotel, not because of just 2 suicides.
Right.
Okay. There were several people that jumped out when they're to the point now where their windows do not open on the higher floors.
Right.
Okay, because so many people committed suicide there.
Right.
So, yeah, I think there's a lot of bad energy in that hotel. I'm hoping that maybe that they've gotten the help that they need and they can revamp the hotel. I feel bad for the investors because I don't think they want it to stay a hotel that, has that forever, that has people talking about it forever. So, but
I'm trying to look real quick to see.
We're looking to see how many people have committed suicide there.
People actually committed suicide. Okay, so this says in the Cecil Hotel's history, some 16 deaths have occurred in or around the establishment, 12 of which are thought to be suicides, while the others comprised of murder or supposed accidents, including falling from the building, earning it the nickname Hotel Death. So that's an
also
fact. So 16 recorded doesn't mean that's all there are. It just means there are 16 that were recorded.
And I just remembered one of those deaths, actually 2 people died in a suicide attempt because a girl falling from the building hit a man on the sidewalk, killing them both instantly.
Right. Was that the Cecil?
That was at the Cecil Hotel. I believe so. I believe it was the Cecil. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody. It was either the Cecil or the Biltmore, but I believe it was the Cecil Hotel.
Okay, so this is what you have. 1927, suicide by gunshot. 1931, suicide by poison. 1934, suicide by gunshot. 1937, suicide by slit throat. 1938, fell from building. 1939, fell from building.
Who slices their own throat?
1940, ingested poison. 1944, an unnamed newborn child, a boy, was discarded from the window. 1947, fell from building. 1954, fell from building. 1962, fell from building. 1962, this is Pauline Otten and George Giannini, suicide by jumping from the building, which is Pauline Otten is the one that jumped, and George is the one she landed on. That happened in 1962. 1964, murder by stabbing and sexual assault. 1975, fell from building. 1992, an unidentified man fell from the building. 2013 was Elisa Lam, and she has death by accidental drowning is how they ruled it. And then in 2015, which is the most recent, an unidentified man. Look, an unidentified man was suspected to have fallen from the building. So a lot of falls from buildings.
Yes.
A lot of suicide by gunshot or suicide by jumping.
The fall from buildings, guys, they're jumping out the window. They're not just falling out the window. Okay. Right. They're either jumped or pushed out of a window. So but that's a lot of death.
That's a lot of death. Yeah.
And it's almost all the same thing. It's either gunshot, poison, or jumping. Did you notice that?
Yeah. I mean, there's one that's not
that slit his throat. Who does that?
I don't know.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
That was Sergeant Louis D. Borden in 1937.
Borden?
And how did they? Yeah, Borden. Borden.
Huh.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how did they determine that that's suicide?
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, what if somebody else
that's
did?
not a typical
To me,
suicide.
that's not a typical suicide. But I have heard of that before.
I mean, obviously, it happens.
I've heard of somebody doing that before. He's not the first one I've heard of doing that.
General
way to go. And just bleed to death. So
I mean, murder and suicide are
pretty much the norm.
Like the norm for
So
the Cecil Hotel. So if you have not watched that
video coverage,
that video of Elisa Lam in the elevator, you really need to watch it. It really does explain what people are talking about when you're talking about
her mindset.
She looked like she was talking to somebody, or that her mindset was altered or not. Not a normal mindset.
Now, as far as another dimension in the hotel, no, I don't. I'm not very much on portals, so I don't really believe in stuff like that. But I do believe that when you already have a disability that causes you to emotionally and mentally go off the rails to begin with, that it wouldn't take much if you're not taking your medication to emotionally and mentally go off the rails. And unfortunately, this young lady chose not to take her medication.
Right.
And her family became very concerned, but by the time they got to her, it was too late.
And just real quick, she checked into the Cecil on January 26th of 2013.
Yeah.
She had originally been staying with roommates in a hostel-style accommodation, and they began receiving complaints, like Shell said. So she was moved to a single room. And just 5 days after she was moved into that single room is when she was declared missing.
Yeah.
And then on February 19th, and this was after, so she checked in on the 26th, and on the 19th
not even a month.
of February, so almost a month, getting close to a month, that's when the complaints started coming in about the taste of the water and the low water pressure.
Oh, God.
That's when her body was found floating inside of the closed water tank on the roof of the hotel.
And they found her body floating, which means there was enough water in there.
Right. There was no drugs or alcohol in her system. There were no signs of trauma on her body. So that kind of plays into my theory of she went up there with the intention of getting in, possibly a truth or dare scenario, trying to maybe make amends for the complaints that were against her with this group of other girls that she was staying with, or something, or another group of people that were staying there trying to make friends or something like that. So I think that falls into the they can't explain how she got into the locked roof without setting off the emergency alarm.
Right.
They couldn't. I mean, there's so many conspiracy theories to this.
But they have,
crazy.
Just so everybody knows, they have cleared the maintenance of any wrongdoing, and they've cleared the people that she was staying in the room with of any wrongdoing. So, though at this time.
Right.
So at this time, they cannot find anything weird about the people that she was staying with, that she had the issue with, and the maintenance there at the hotel. So.
And we're now, April of 2021. So this has been 8 years now.
Still.
Since her death.
Still
and
nothing.
There's no. I mean, the only resolution they have is that it was a death by accidental drowning, is how it's been ruled. So it hasn't even.
Right.
It hasn't been ruled a suicide.
It hasn't been ruled a homicide.
It hasn't been ruled a homicide. It's been ruled an accidental drowning.
Yeah. Now, another thing too that I will tell you is, when some of these groups that are doing like paranormal investigation stuff, and they go there, they have yet to get anything regarding her as far as EVPs and things like that.
Right.
So, a lot of people believe that if you're there, that if you die in a weird way, that you have unfinished business. Maybe she didn't have any unfinished business. Maybe she made amends with everything before she went into that cistern. You don't know. I mean, I feel bad for her, and I feel bad for her family, because one, I know what it's like to struggle with a mental disability, with a disorder that you can't control, and the only way to control it is medication, and your medication makes you not the person you want to be.
Right.
So there's ways that I can understand. A lot of people with bipolar disorder choose not to take medication. That's your choice. That's up to you. But I mean, I know how it feels to have to make a choice on whether or not you're going to take medication that day and be out of it, or not take medication and be a participant. So, and that's another podcast altogether. But chime in, let us know what your thoughts are. Watch the videos. I mean, they are really, like absolutely. I said, it's a group called TFIL, and it's run by Elton Castee. They are hilarious, but they do really look into the history and everything of the hotel. Ghost Adventures, same thing. They really look into the history of the hotel. BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Yes.
Extensively did Elisa Lam. I don't know that they did one on the Cecil Hotel, but they did touch in the Elisa Lam one on who stayed there.
The Netflix series is about Elisa Lam. It is not. I think I mistakenly said it was about the Cecil Hotel, but
there is one about the Cecil.
It's actually about the one that just came out in 2021.
Yeah, is about
Elisa Lam. It's a 4-part series of all of that. So if you want more details and things like that, check that out. I mean, it's very good. Mm-hmm. It's a very good series to watch. It's very interesting, very thought-provoking.
Yes.
I actually enjoyed watching it.
Yeah.
It's something I would probably watch again.
Yeah. It really showed a lot of insight and depth into what was going on and how they were handling, because even though they've ruled it an accidental suicide, I don't believe that the police have closed it completely.
I don't think they have.
So it's considered a cold case right now, because there's still some questions that could not be answered. How she got in there,
answered yet. There are a lot of unanswered things too.
Because I remind you,
up there, how she got in there, how she,
when they went to open the door to go see what was wrong with the cistern, the door was locked. The door was not open, so she did not go through.
It was not broken.
The door, nothing was disturbed. Because every time
it should have been.
Yeah, so. And they even showed on one of them, when you open the door that says no entrance or an alarm will sound, the alarm sounded. So,
and I want to say there's something at the front desk, and I could be wrong about this, but I want to say there's something at the front desk that even if the sound alarm is not working, there is a visual alarm,
like a blinking alarm that they have for people that are deaf.
Front desk that is not that someone has opened that door.
Yeah. So check it out.
Interesting.
Let us know what you think, and guys, interact with us. We're back. Yes. We're doing this, and
we've said this multiple times, and honestly, we're not getting a whole lot of interaction as far as what you guys want to hear, what you like, what you don't like,
and we want to.
You don't have to worry about our feelings. We're
big girls.
Yeah, we're kind of crunk that way. We just don't. Our feelings don't get hurt. Like, we can hurt each other's feelings, but that's about it.
That's about it. You can't hurt our feelings.
You can't hurt our feelings. So let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear, what you like hearing, what you don't like hearing. And just the only thing I can leave you with is remember to tell your family that you love them and that you care about them.
Absolutely.
And
don't let a day go by.
The day you're in, you're not promised tomorrow. Yep. So don't forget to tell your loved ones that you love them. And we love you guys, and we're always thinking of you guys.
Definitely
and
praying for you every day.
Trying to make this a great podcast, something that you want to listen to, that you enjoy listening to, that you want to come back to. So let us know what you think, and we will see you guys on the flip side.
Peace out.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.